world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Wrestling Draft.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Wrestling Draft season finale. I am your host, Scott McLeod, getting ready for our little getaway over to the lovely places Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And I'm not having a gun pointed at me while I'm saying those words. But we are going over to the Royal Rumble, one of the most exciting times of the year, especially here in the draft. And as we've been talking about, it's been very unpredictable the last few weeks. It could go right up to the final match, right to the final moments of the Royal Rumble. It's squeaky bum time here in the draft. And joining me to discuss it all is the man who stepped in alongside draft OG David Campbell. David Hockney, welcome back. Happy to be here for the finale.
Oh yeah, listen, it's the Wrestling Draft, it's season finale, it's the Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia, but still, it's the Royal Rumble. Like, this took such a high priority that I had to move my physio appointment back 1 week because this is how big of a deal this show is going to be. There's been a shit ton of changes that have been happening in the last week within our Premier's League because everybody's eyes are on the Royal Rumble right now. And this is what we're going to do in the season finale. We're here to break down who is most likely to come out on top and what can we expect from the season ahead.
You know, David's suffering for his art right now, ladies and gentlemen, because, you know, his head is so big, given all of his opinions he has about the draft, it's causing neck and back issues, and he's in constant pain every week. And he's sitting here, a week overdue for his physio, suffering for his art right now.
Listen, my neck and back injuries over these seasons are because I carry this show on my back. And
how many shows have you edited?
I am a beast of burden on this show.
Well, you're half right. On that one. But we're here to talk about the draft. It is weird. We joked in the early parts of like the Saudi deal that like the Saudis aren't up to date with culture, up to date with wrestling because of who they were asking for. But Linkin Park is doing the theme song for this. So like, what year is this?
Yeah, how much money were they?
One of the better new songs.
How much money were they given as a result?
Yeah, so I take the money when you can get it. But we're here to talk about the leaderboard, the top scores heading into the Royal Rumble. It's the ladies once again dominating the top 3 on 9 points. In second, we have Chris Statlander, AEW Women's Champion, with a defense over Tekla this past week on Dynamite. And we have tied for 10 points the Women's Tag Team Champions, following a successful defense against Judgment Day, and also 2 people who maybe won't win the Rumble, but could be very strong performers going into the Rumble, can never really be counted out. Io Sky and Rhea Ripley. Not really many surprises there. Just below them, by the way, is Don Callis on 8, and Stephanie Vicure tied with Sami Zayn, Soul Go, Andrew McIntyre, all on 7.
Yeah, it was all about Saturday night's main event this time around. So, yeah, the Rhea Ripley, Io Sky defense obviously being the big points getter because I don't know if both of them have the captaincy applies, but I think there have been some changes with regards to captaincy on some teams. I don't know if that's been applied when Rhea and Io did those title defenses, but either way, 10 points for a title defense and appearances all round this week. I think you can't argue with that, really. And a solid defense for Chris Statlander as well. Is on a very title-heavy taping of Dynamite this week as well.
Oh, yeah, they were going big, and also they got a big episode of Collision also going the same day. I mean, the ratings usually suffer for Collision. I mean, Collision doesn't always get the best ratings, but also the same day as a pay-per-view, it really does well. But, they're a lot of hype now, I think, thanks to the Tommaso Ciampa, Mark Briscoe.
Yeah, Mark Briscoe and Big Tommy C.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the first time that someone's drafted a tag team where one of them's in WWE and the other's in AEW?
Yeah, I mean, DIY were doing Sweet F-All, now they're doing minus nothing going into this. Yeah, it's weird how that's all, because everybody seemed like,
oh my gosh,
sure, like, is he just having a break? Is he really leaving? And then we got confirmation. But, it's nice for, I can't remember at the moment, but whoever's drafted
it's
Mark
Robert,
Briscoe,
yeah.
Good for Robert, because, both nights he's got the TNT title being defended, and he's got the WWE Championship with Drew McIntyre also being defended in the same night. So, even if he doesn't really have people in the Rumble, or who might win the Rumble, then, at least he's got the strong title points going in there. So, I just should mention Stemos has noted this, and I'll mention everyone who's done it. 6 captaincy changes were made ahead of this final week because they had to do it by last Monday was the final call for it. So I'm not entirely sure Rhea the captaincy was moved to Rhea for Matt before the match, but
no, it was Takeshita apparently.
Yeah, it was Takeshita and then moved to Rhea Ripley. So I don't think it was before the title match, but still 10 points without the captaincy is still very impressive, and Rhea Ripley is still straight after. Now that she's in this tag scene, she's being very valuable once again. Should mention the people who have made the changes. David Campbell mentioned it last week. He switched from Jade Cargill over to Charlotte Flair. A lot of it is with the Rumble in mind. Robert has moved the captaincy from Stephanie Vicky, who won't be defending at the Rumble. She will be defending on the Raw afterwards, but that doesn't count for scoring. And has moved the aforementioned Drew McIntyre to get a little bit of a boost over a hopeful, successful defense in his mind over Sami Zayn. And speaking of Sami Zayn, who won't be winning the Rumble for Tom Brock as he might have thought, but will be challenging Drew McIntyre after winning it Saturday. It's main event, so a good night on last Saturday for Sami. So Tom has moved the captaincy from Sami to Bianca Belair, who has apparently, I haven't watched them, but there are shaky videos of people apparently filming Bianca Belair allegedly arriving in Saudi Arabia this past weekend. But so Bianca Belair is where his captaincy rests hope. And I have switched from Cody Rhodes to Roman Reigns, who I was initially wondering, was this strategy even work? But then on the weekend, the day before I made the change, I saw Roman, once SmackDown had been confirmed, he will be at the Rumble, even if he hadn't appeared on TV. So I thought, okay, confident enough, just go for it, make the change.
Well, you know what? You know what was a big giveaway? Is the fact that there was photos circulating on social media of one of these like lumber trucks carrying a giant ones to the sky hand with the Roman Reigns glove on it. So I think it's a pretty foregone conclusion that Roman Reigns is going to be a focal point of this Rumble, even though he declared in absentia.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming he'll be on the go on SmackDown at the very least, and then be at the Rumble because get something else out of him. And the final captaincy to be made: Dominic Mysterio, who has been out for the last couple of weeks, very unfortunate. Dan Fitzpatrick, he's moved the captaincy over to Jordan Grace, who he's also been a very strong Rumble performance. It's a shame. Dom for Anthony is one of those things. I've had it actually with Drew McIntyre a couple of times, in that you've got people who perform really well in some seasons, but that one season you get them is very unfortunate, either due to injury or major loss. But what do you make of these captaincy changes in particular? Because also you discussed the GOAT one last week.
It's clear that everybody's going in with the Royal Rumble in mind. Who's going to be the Iron Man / Iron Woman, who's going to get the most eliminations, who's going to win is going to be big. Because, I mean, I think Anthony, as you said, the shift to Jordan Grace is probably the only realistic thing he could have done at this stage, because most of his other picks are in AEW. I mean, obviously with the exception of Dom, who's been out injured, and then there's the Kabuki Warriors, which wouldn't be a wise selection for the Rumble. So he was a little bit tied up, but you never know. Jordan might get a couple of eliminations in there. Don't think she's winning. I think the GOAT obviously changing to Charlotte is probably wise strategy, given that she typically performs quite well in the Rumbles. Matt changing to Rhea Ripley, I think that one's a no-brainer. Who else changed, just to remind me?
Well, I changed Robert Shaw.
The Roman Reigns, yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I think that's probably the best thing you could have done. And given that Roman Reigns is, I believe, one of the odds-on favourites to win this Rumble.
just by the way, I'm double checking.
In fact, you know what? I'll look up the betting odds and see where we stand, but we can do that after the standings.
You mentioned Robert. Robert doesn't have Mark Briscoe. It's Dan Axel Jameson that has Mark Briscoe.
Yep.
So he's looking for someone strong defender because, again, Finn JD on 0. And his only other WWE picks are Paul Heyman and Ava Rain. So a Paul Heyman appearance with the Vision at the Rumble. But like other than that, I think he's hoping for strong appearances and a win for Mark Briscoe and a strong appearance from Okada and or Tony Storm on the Collision happening the same night is where Dan Axel Jameson tries to. But I understand why Robert still moved over to Drew McIntyre. Because obviously the biggest thing of this season has been Drew winning the title, and obviously he's only the person who will be in action will be Becky Lynch, so soon she'll be in the Rumble. Punk and Stephanie aren't defending their titles on the show. And so while he doesn't have someone who will win the Rumble, he's trying to get as many points as he can at this crucial, finale. And so a successful defense over Drew. But even then, it's going to be very tense until the final 3 count because there's always that chance that even though it'd be shitty to Drew, a shock title change. Oh, because Sammy and Saudi, So it would be weird because if Sammy finally wins the title, it'd be a hell of a story to do it against Drew and Saudi. But his win would be overshadowed by people feeling bad for Drew McIntyre.
Oh, so, for sure, yeah.
I understand because Robert currently is in 4th, so he's on the outside of the top 3. So he's trying to make the most of these last few days. But speaking of that leaderboard, right at the bottom, it's not Tom Brock. Tom Brock has moved to the all important second from last. Actually, no, he's tied for last. Never mind.
Tied for last now.
Yeah, he's tied. He's got company down there. It gets lonely at the bottom. So we're all
the relegation zone isn't nice to be alone.
And blame Big Time Rush for a bad result. Tom Brock both won 61 points each. Then we take a jump up to 85 points, which is where I currently sit with Drafting Easy. Then there's the 2 a.m. kickoff vibes with Matt Smith. Team GOAT, who admitted it wasn't his best season, 89.5 points, just a half point ahead of him. And then 93 points is GP with the team that must not be named. And then Anthony Fitzpatrick, Listeners League, completed mate on 99 points. 99! 102 points with Andre Michel's 30 picks. And Lucas with the All Elite Draft Readings. Obviously, his recent week was not helped by the fact that Tekla suffered a loss over on Dynamite in a title match.
And yet he kept the captaincy on Joe Hendry as well. Yeah,
again, John Moxley was also in a championship contender match. Like this discussion you guys had about why the captaincy was not moved to them. It would probably even be better on Jimmy Uso at this stage than Joe Hendry, because at least Jimmy Uso won a title this season. But anyway,
exactly.
So he's on 105.5 points, and 112.5 points is the aforementioned Robert Shaw with the Draft Bastards, just below you, just how you like Robert Shaw, just how you like him, Dave, just below you. Half point below you, with you, the Witten, who'd have won 113 points. Then 1-2-1, Dan Axel Jameson with the Essex Elite. And then, that TikTok trend that's going around, the worst you can say is no. What if she walks around and says to you, Stephen Wilson is on 130 points and at the top of the table? That's the worst you can say to you. Reach for the stars. He's reaching for the stars, and I don't like it this close to finale. I cannot have this. We need new stars at the top here.
Yeah. But you never know when it comes to the Royal Rumble. All it takes is one pick's excellent performance and the table completely flips by the end of the season.
Yeah, it feels weird. I feel like I'm repeating myself at this stage because the last 2 weeks, and you and David talked about last week, and that it does feel like anyone could still win this. It feels like one good Rumble performance. Hell, if you're so lucky as to have not even just the both winners, but 2 very strong performances in both Rumbles, turn literally everything around to everybody. I mean, Robert Shaw, if he had somebody else who wasn't Becky Lynch, who I knew you knew would be in the Rumble, then I'd be slightly more confident on him. But because I said about his team being conditional, it feels like a majority of conditions, with the exception of Mercedes Moné and DIY, everything else is really just falling into place as it should have for him. If he had just that one person, more likely, because look at the people who have switched their captaincies to Roman Reigns, Rhea Ripley, Charlotte Flair, even Jordan Grace to an extent, because I can see why Anthony's done that, because she's the one who's been most prominently in and around the women's champion, Jade Cargill. So I can see why he's maybe thinking that. I could see Jordan as a candidate to be Iron Woman or get most eliminations, but you know, it does still feel too unpredictable, which makes our job even harder.
Oh gosh, like you have no idea how difficult it makes us.
It's just unbelievable. Double checking Stephen Wilson's team. Also, he does have the Everman's Yusuke, and he does have Jey Uso. Now, I believe Raquel will be challenging for the title the night after the Raw after the Rumble, but Raquel and Roxanne could still be in the Rumble at the same time. That would be crucial.
Yep.
A chances of Fallon Henley being one of the few NXT people they fly over, very minimal, I think. So, you know, but no, a cheeky Ethan Page appearance in the men's Rumble, I could see that. So he's putting a lot of his hopes are on a Jey Uso potential repeat or a very strong Io Sky performance, I think, for Stephen Wilson.
Yeah, I think Jey Uso could certainly. Well, I was going to say Jey Uso could potentially be the Iron Man, given how well he did in 2024, I believe. Io Sky can certainly do a solid performance, even if she finishes top 4 in some aspects, which I think is certainly doable. But does he have the winner on paper? I don't think so. That could end up being the difference maker.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of people are still talking about like there's a Bianca return. So I'm not seeing anyone talk about Tiffany Stratton, which worries me. But maybe that's intentional. But,
well, I've got the most reliable betting odds in front of me here. The wonderful Paddy Power, if you've seen the adverts on YouTube.
The show is not sponsored. Or responsibly. But Liv Morgan is someone I keep seeing a lot of conversations about. It does seem like the conversations are more. It could go either way on the men's side in terms of what brand the winner is from. But it does seem like more often I'm seeing Raw people being talked about for the women's Royal Rumble, which is interesting, which does lean more into the idea of Liv Morgan potentially getting this win.
Which would be fantastic, because that's exactly what I need to get me to the top of the table. Liv Morgan is my highest score with 34 points and the captaincy applied. FTR just gives me that little extra with their tag team title defense on Dynamite this past week. And if betting odds are to be believed, I reckon we could see LA Knight pop up in the Rumble.
You could do, but you know, he works for Triple H, so he's definitely not going to win the Royal Rumble.
If you've seen WWE Unreal, you could just like the meme of his face after Money in the Bank was just, I think it pretty much summed up his entire run so far.
Summing up, can you please sum up for us what the Listener League standing looks like as we inch ever closer to the finale?
Yep. So season finale of the Listeners League, it's quite distinctive in some areas, but it's going to be, it has potential to change radically. So 5th place is David Clegg with the Funkadelics on 116.5. His team consisting of Braun Breaker, CM Punk, Javon Evans, Becky Lynch, Hangman and Swerve, and Sol Ruka. I think if you're going for big Rumble points, I think this is going to be hard to bet against for this one. Then we have in 4th place, a consistent performer this season, Ross McCluskey with Hiroshi Tanahashi Brownie on 122 points. His team consisting mostly of, actually, no, he's got a bit of an even split between AEW and WWE picks. So Chris Statlander, Don Callis, Braun Breaker, Young Buck, Sol Ruka, and Jacob Fatu. Braun Breaker and Sol Ruka obviously being the consistent picks of the Listeners League so far. 3rd place, we have Stacey Love with Big Time Receipts, 122.5, just half ahead of Ross. Her team consists of Stephanie McCare, CM Punk, Damian Priest, Nick Aldis, Becky Lynch, and AJ Styles and Dragon Lee. All WWE for this very reason. Stephanie McCare's probably not going to help him out at this stage. Neither is CM Punk, with neither of them scheduled to defend their titles. I think her best shot is going to be either Damian Priest or Becky Lynch scoring some form of points along the way in the forms of eliminations. So, I wouldn't bet on Stacey winning this one. 2nd place, we have 15.5 points ahead is Aidan Scott with the Poor Vision. He has Don Callis, Braun Breaker, Marina Shafir, Drew McIntyre, Alexa Bliss, and the Kabuki Warriors. Again, not bad on paper with Braun Breaker and Drew McIntyre are obviously probably going to be the big scorers on his team coming out of the weekend. Is it enough to push them over the line? Hard to say when you look at someone who's been at the top of the table for the majority of this season is Eve Jamieson with the Christmas Wrestlers on 152. So it's a 14-point lead that Eve has. And on paper, she has Liv Morgan, Don Callis, Chris Statlander, Mark Briscoe, Drew McIntyre, and Hangman and Swerve. So the big points to be had for Eve's team is not only if Drew retains the undisputed WWE title, but, and this is a big but, if Liv Morgan wins the Rumble, Eve wins the season. So
that's you again, always talking about Liv Morgan's big butt. Honestly, you have some control. You're maybe a professional here, man.
Hey, listen. She has a workout on Sheamus's Celtic Warrior Workouts channel where her workout is literally called butt stuff.
See, there he goes again. I can only apologize. You know, this is a family show, Dave.
I'm stating facts like I always have. Okay.
Sure. That's how he defends the allegations.
Listen, just Google Liv Morgan butt stuff and you'll see what I mean.
Please have safe search and a VPN on at the same time.
Yep.
Hangman and Swerve, I should mention, you said last week that the team was pretty much over. I don't think it ever truly got started. They got 12 points at the end of it. But Drew McIntyre, like I said, and Mark Briscoe, I think both shoot-ins, particularly, I mean, depending on how hot out the gate, 20.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Mark Briscoe's title defense on Collision as well.
Yeah, I mean, depends how hot out of the gate they want to push Tommaso in AEW, but I think a fair to say a Drew and Mark retention, obviously she would have been boosted by Chris Statlander went earlier and yeah, if it goes the way you want it to with Liv Morgan, she wins. Now, I've been accused in the past of saying some mean things about the Listeners League. I mean, maybe once or twice been told not to be so mean to the Listeners League in one form or another. But I will say, to everyone else in the Listeners League, depending on how long you've been playing, regardless of how long you've been playing, rather, if you lose this season to a child, even though you can pick what round or what person, depending from the main league, maybe reevaluate your strategy going forward or how fitting you are to be playing in this league. Just a thought, when I say. But, I mean, people will say to me, but didn't you finish below Grant McRobbie and he had AI? Yes. They used to saying that children are the future. They're not. It's AI. AI is the future and it's going to take over us all. Be warned.
Yeah, well, the majority of human input beat artificial intelligence in that season, so I think it's safe to say humans won, technology nil on that one.
But Eve does have a strong chance, even though last week you were, and Dan Axel has pulled you up about it, you were singing the praises of Aiden more so than Eve in terms of which team you thought was going to win here. But, this could all be decided with the women's rumble should it go Liv Morgan's way. But speaking of Eve, Eve's win could potentially have ramifications for next season in terms of the teams. And I'll explain just now. So Steve Wilson, without any, razzmatazz, without any, build up or warning, just said, here's the teams for next season, didn't build to it. Obviously, David Campbell and Ross McLeod as the reigning champions are going to come back next week. We're all going to subscribe to Roscoe. It's always the way, you sign up for your free trial. You say you're going to cancel before you get your first bill. You forget, and now we're stuck with our Roscoe bill for the next 3 months. We have to keep that subscription going. Now, this isn't the exact order they'll be selecting, and I don't think we've chosen a proper selection order. This is the order I have them here. So, Roscoe with David Campbell and Ross McLeod. We have the team of Dax, Jameson, and Alan McLucas. I myself will be teaming with the Dutchman, Tom Brock. Gary Morris will be teaming with David's friend Robert Shaw. So, I'm sure David is sad about that. But he'll only be too sad for too long because he's got the wine lover, Stacey Smith, teaming alongside him. Now, at the minute, Matt Smith is deemed to be competing alongside the Lesnar League winner. I'll circle back to that. The cousins are reluctantly working together, and by reluctant I mean more so on Gary's part, because Stephen Wilson will be competing and teaming with his cousin Gary Kieran. I'm sure Gary's well made up about that. And of course, the final team is Andy and JP. Now, Matt Smith will team with the Listeners League winner. However, if Eve wins, it's been declared that by Stephen Wilson that if Eve wins, Matt will then be switched and moved to team with Alan McLucas, and Axel Jameson will team with his daughter. Otherwise, if it's Aiden or literally anyone else other than Eve, it'll be there with Matt Smith. If it's Eve, she will team with her dad, and Matt Smith will team with Alan McLucas. So we need to see there. And
Seems fair.
It does seem fair. We do know, though, that in terms of selection order, that David Campbell and Ross McLeod will be competing, selecting from last. So in the first and second round, they will have the benefit of the snake draft, though, on their side. And also half the field is taken down because half as many selections because everyone's paired up.
Yeah. And that's good because it means like if either of us win this season, then we don't have the peril of selecting last in the first round.
Mm-hmm. Which is interesting. Although people did try and argue, well, some of the newbies did try to say, well, shouldn't whoever wins the season get to choose their own partner? When that's never been the way. I mean, I wouldn't be against it, but that's never been the way we've done things. So it's some very interesting teams there on paper. I said in the chat, and I stand by it, that Andy and JP, that's either a team. I'm not doing word predictions that we usually do in our selection show, but I'm saying with Andy and JP, regardless, before they even picked anybody, I think this is a team that's either going to do shockingly well or completely fall apart. There is no in between.
My money's on it's going to be an absolute clusterfuck with those two.
I mean, who takes the lead on that one? I mean, you gotta think half the time there's like one person present for selection. I mean, you, me, and Stephen could probably be the person to present the picks for our teams because we all got to be there for the selection show anyway. But somebody has to take responsibility for actually giving out the picks on the night, and who takes responsibility between those two, I don't know. But David, you need a reaction not only to your own pairing alongside Stacey Smith, but the teams overall, before we've even seen how they strategize and how they put their teams together, just on paper, your reaction.
You know what? My reaction was that of, you know what? I think that's fairly well balanced. I don't think there's any team that screams like, oh, they're going to win. I think this is anybody's guess when it comes to teams pairing, because I think the real difference maker comes down to on the selection night itself and who picks who and when, more specifically, because it all comes down to a tag team picking an overall strong team. And that's what makes the difference. I don't think the pairings really matter at this stage. It's more to do with how in sync they are with their selections and what order they choose them.
And are you looking forward to trying to fight back against your tag team partner's urges to select Nikki Bella first round or at all?
Listen, if I'm the one that has to call the shots on the night, then I can guarantee there will be no sign of Nikki Bella within our team, but there will be plenty of wine. Because the West End Country Club needs restocking with some of the finest wine that you could ask for. And I know Stacey, as a wine lover, she'll pick the best brands.
Yeah, so it should be fun. To be a fly in the wall in that chat, they were talking me trying to be the boss over a woman. But,
wow. Don't. Should I sue for slander at this point? Like, this is or defamation.
I've got fuck all.
Where's Dr. Lawyer?
You'll get nothing from me. But I'm sure you were begging, hoping, even though it was at random, most of them I'm assuming by some sort of wheel. But I'm sure you're disappointed deep down that you and Robert won't be reuniting. But it'll be interesting to see Ross and David. I mean, you talk about it depends on the night. People like to see how people react into selection. David and Ross obviously is returning around. That's the reason they're paired together. We know how they'll work. But it is a very interesting thing to look at because we have not yet had repeat back-to-back winners of the same team. We've had people be in tag teams with varying partners win multiple seasons, like David Campbell has done it. First with the Goat Tones, then alongside Tom Broughton, now with Ross did it with Gary Moore as a team. I don't know, clearly very forgettable that season because I forgot they were existed because Ross mentioned them. But yeah.
Don't forget Men on a Mission 2.0 either. A couple of years ago, we won WrestleMania 38 season, and we were on track to win WrestleMania 39. Then literally everybody we had on our team that was on the card ended up losing their matches. Like, it was literally the worst night of any drafting team's lives.
I mean, I'd like to forget it, but you will never let us forget it, will you? But,
no. Like,
I mean,
I
I-
hold grudges over these sorts of things. Like, do you even
You hold
know
a
me?
grudge? No,
Yeah.
you don't say.
I've held grudges for years on this show.
Sure, you're like Graham Norton's character from Father Ted. You've got a most hated enemies list somewhere, haven't you?
Oh, yeah. It's, I don't know if you can see, but obviously, we don't really.
I can't see anything. The light's reflecting off your head.
Oh, very good. I do have this list somewhere. I don't know if it's next to my diplomas or it's
Sure,
or
it's
in one of my
laminated
desk,
in some way.
or it's in one of my desk drawers.
Yeah. I'm not,
Just be like the Grinch with the Book of Who's. It's like hate, 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 double hate, loathe entirely.
that was your Grinch impression. You said more like bloody Yoda. But I'm looking at the teams in terms of my
They were
history with this
Still
draft.
both green.
My history with this draft. Now, the one time the main Rumble to Mania season was singles, I won it. I mean, yes, there was a pandemic in the middle of it, but I still won.
Mhm.
And then ever since then, I've been with Stephen Wilson. I've been with Chris Anthony Lopez, my brother, Grant, and Gary Kernhan. Those have been my partners over the years. With Chris and Grant, we got very close, but no cigar. Stephen, I don't think we're anywhere near it, nor Gary. Me and Ross could have had a chance, but it fell apart.
Mhm.
And the main thing I take away from all those teams is that it was all their fault. The point is, I really want to win a tag team. It's one of the few things I haven't done around here. And you know what? Tom has won a tag team, so he clearly knows how to work with others. Now, ironically, it was me who read out his picks on the last selection, but I read out Bianca Belair number one because it was the top of his list, and she hadn't been picked. So I was just going by what the list said. But now once again, I'm going to be communicating the picks, but on both our behalfs. And I told Tom, you're going through a rough patch now, but take my hand, young man, young Padawan. I will take you back up to glory because you're having a bad season, and that can only mean a good season is around the corner. So me and Tom, there'll be no big timers here. We will rise again, and I will put aside my dislike for the Dutch for one season. I've always loved the Dutch. I've always said it.
Calm down, gold member.
I've been.
Oh no, it's Nigel Powers.
he is
Sorry, I got that
Dutch,
the wrong way round.
Jesus Christ! If you're going to make an outdated pop culture reference, at least get it right.
Yeah. It's like a 24-year-old reference on that one. That's how old that movie is.
But it's a very interesting teams. I wanted to see how they work together, and eventually, when one or two of them start to fail, I'm interested to see who takes the blame or who gets blamed for everyone's decisions. But Dave, looking ahead to the Rumble, well, what really more needs to be said? Like you look at, some very strong representation from a lot of people in the Rumble, but is it just because of past surprise in the Rumble, or is it current WWE booking that's really making this so hard to put? I mean, it's good to have an unpredictable Rumble, but
Yeah, it's the current booking, in my opinion, that I think is causing all this chaos, because yes, the dirt sheets and the online forums are going to have their say on who they want to see win and who they think is most likely to win, and then that gathers some steam, that gathers some traction, and then before you know it, everybody's on that gravy train of in this tunnel vision of who they think is going to win, and when it doesn't happen, they go outcry. It's like, boo, bald fraud, triple nose, you can't book for shit, that kind of thing. But
you can talk about yourself that way, Dave.
I've taken it upon myself to have a browse at Paddy Power, and I'd like to use these betting odds as the sort of basis of our discussion on.
I'm glad you're doing it on a Thursday, because I don't like when people try to bring them up on the day of the show, because that usually just gives away what happens. Because someone told me the Randy Orton odds on the day of the 2017 Rumble completely ruined that fucking Rumble for me.
Yeah, well, this is the day prior, so I think. Oh no, sorry, 2 days prior at time of recording. So. Some honorable mentions. So I've got the top 6 here for each Rumble. Honorable mentions, both at 15-2, according to Paddy Power. We have Gunther and Obafemi. And then 7-1, we have Sami Zayn, who is also in the undisputed WWE title match. But if past suggestions are anything to go by, usually if you're competing for the title on the night, then you don't appear in the Rumble. But you know what? They can be lenient with that sort of thing. But our top 3 favorites to win the Rumble, amazingly, at 5-1, a name that has only really just sort of cropped in here is LA Knight. What's your initial thought of that?
Interesting. I mean, I think
Who's
I
on my team, by the way?
I think if he was ever going to get a push towards the world title, it's going to be through Money in the Bank and not the Rumble. And we've seen how past Money in the Banks have gone for LA Knight. So I'm
Mhm.
not entirely sure. I believe that LA Knight's going to win the Rumble. I mean, I more than believe he'll show up, but I don't believe he'll win. He'll do a big spot with the division. He'll throw them out, and then they'll try and throw him out. And
Mhm. But you never know. It's just nice to see those odds being there for someone who's been in absentee for my team. But as expected, the two main favourites going into the men's rumble at 7-4, it's Braun Breaker, but the overall favourite, according to Paddy Power, is Roman Reigns, 10-11. Who's on your team?
Paddy Power acknowledges its tribal chief.
Yeah. So I think it's between one of those two if you're a betting person. But knowing WWE, they might do a Vince Russo style swerve given how volatile their booking's been.
I mean, you look at compared to the last year's Rumble, like everybody and their mum knew that Charlotte, based on WWE's presentation, even though they didn't want her to, everybody knew that Charlotte was winning. But I don't think anyone could really truly call Jey Uso winning last year. I think a lot of people did actually think John Cena was going to win, and that would set up the road to the match with Cody and the Chamber. So, I also, again, you can't underestimate the power of Saudi Arabia, considering, if the Saudi Royals, I don't know what the relationship is like, because before, when the first few shows, they would say, like, well, so-and-so's on the card because the Saudi thing. Apparently, Mansoor said that they changed over who was kind of communicating with WWE on what organization then Saudi was communicating with WWE about what they wanted for the shows, and that changeover is partly the reason why he stopped getting booked on Saudi shows. And
it's the Saudi Sports Authority that sort of handles all that, or they used to handle that sort of thing, right?
Yeah, then they moved it to some entertainment organization. So I don't know how much sway they have in these shows. It's one thing for a Crown Jewel to go the way they want to, or whatever, King of the Ring even, but like how much influential would they allow them to be for the Rumble is what I'm interested in.
Nah,
if they say we want, for argument's sake, if they said they wanted Roman, or they said, oh, we want Cody to win, how much would WWE have to bend their plans to suit what the Saudis ask for?
You know what? I'd say shove it. All the money in the world can, dictate the way something as unpredictable as the Royal Rumble should go, because you might get an accidental elimination at some point, something that wasn't supposed to happen, or you might just have, WWE goes take the money and still does their own thing anyway. So that's why I'm not a fan of the Rumble being in Saudi, because I think they have too much sway over something that's meant to be unpredictable. And just because they throw a shit ton of money at it doesn't mean they get to dictate how the product goes. So,
well, you got to get used to it because they got Mania the next year.
Yeah. But yeah, we have talked about, now that Drew McIntyre is undisputed WWE champion, you have to wonder maybe he'll pick up that feud with Roman Reigns. And, Roman Reigns has always been a focal point of WrestleMania in the last sort of decade or so. I think we'd be remiss if Roman wasn't in a prime position, at least a marquee match, maybe challenge for a title, maybe a main event, but like he hasn't had enough of those already. But I think logically, it makes sense that Roman Reigns is the favorite. But again, I wouldn't bet against Braun Breaker going like an absolute madman in that Rumble.
It's weird with Roman because, again, you leave the reports now. At one point, supposedly Roman was going to fight Seth at Mania the next year. Obviously, Seth's injury put stop to that. Then at one point, they were definitely going to do Roman Cody Part 3. This time, it's personal.
I wouldn't have been a fan of that. But
then they changed that, obviously, with the Drew McIntyre title win. So it's interesting to think how much things can do for someone like Roman Reigns, who's been such a vocal part of the main event scene. One place we haven't really talked about in terms of where points could come from this Sunday is with JP, who does have Gunther. Also, as a Rumble has Austin Theory, Alexa Bliss, Ilya Dragunov, and Maxine Dupree. But Gunther potentially adding another notch to his belt in terms of retiring AJ Styles, who's in a tag team, so whether or not he wins, it really wouldn't matter. But it would be very interesting where you get points, because like AJ said, I'm retiring in 2026, but I'm wondering if this is, what a marquee again thing it would be for the Rumble. I'm wondering if he wins this match, AJ that is,
Mhm.
It's going to be a sort of a Ric Flair style situation, but for longer in terms of constantly putting his career on the line in every match, every major match
Ooh.
he has, until not many a bit later on he has that proper Shawn Michaels "Sorry, I love you" moment.
He has filed a trademark for the phenomenal AJ Styles and the P1 logo. So it makes me wonder, maybe he's trademarking it to either protect himself or maybe he's going to another company so that he can use that. Can you imagine if he ended up showing up in AEW, much like Tommaso Ciampa had this past week?
Because he's retiring and shows it somewhere else. I mean, he would be very much like Ric Flair. Ironically, given that
Yeah.
Ric Flair showed up to
I
be
mean,
his
you never know.
mentor in
He might
2010.
he might want matches with old members of the Bullet Club, um, given that he had so much influence in New Japan, etc. And I think AEW would be the place to do that.
So it'd be an interesting place for JP to get points because something random I forgot about, and I'm just going to throw it in here at the end because it makes me laugh. Now, there was a whole blather when JP was sending me specs when he wanted two members of the NFTs to be his tag team. I went, well, which ones? And the whole thing, like, which ones to choose? So eventually we went with Tamatonga and Tangaloa, who are GOD. And now the NFTs have won the tag titles, but it's Tamatonga and Solo Sikoa randomly that won the match. I don't know if they're going to do a fewer thing, but they're the ones that won the match. And it benefited, it benefited David Campbell a lot because he had Solo Sikoa,
Mm-hmm.
but it does fuck all for.
Yeah.
for
Oh,
JP.
JP had a howler. Yeah, and not like it really matters though, because we're getting a new team by next week anyway.
Yeah. It matters, but like, it is a big fu to, and it made that whole thing very, very pointless. I mean, I think also Amit Lucas chose the Wyatt 6, and that little carry on is left in with 2.5. That plus Tickler's loss, and again, not switching the captaincy. It was a surprise performance for the team, but I do unfortunately think that his team has maybe peaked heading into Rumble weekend. Not to disparage again, like I said, anything can happen in the Royal Rumble and the World Wrestling Federation, but I just say his odds have drastically gone down. I think,
Yeah, there's too many.
The numbers don't lie.
Too many other factors that will push other people up the table in droves, shall I say? But let's focus on the odds for the women's Rumble, actually, because looking at a few honorable mentions. Now, I did put down Jordan Grace a little bit, but she's actually at 10-1 odds at the minute. So she's
the same reason that Anthony's moved his captaincy because he's been on TV.
Yeah, she has a higher odd, according to Paddy Power, she has a higher odds of winning than Roxanne Perez, AJ Lee, and Io Sky. Just throwing it out there. So, but another honorable mention.
Stratton odds.
Hmm?
What are the odds?
I'm getting to that. Just calm down. So, one last honorable mention: Rhea Ripley, 15-2. So better than Jordan Grace, but not as good compared to the number 3, Tiffany Stratton, 4-1. Number 2, Bianca Belair, 10-11. The favorite to win the Women's Royal Rumble, Liv Morgan at 4-5, which is exactly what I needed to see.
So Liv Morgan, in terms of the top-rated, women's, who's around full time at the minute. So it's either going to be her, according to Paddy Power, or two potential surprises in terms of returns, and Tiffany and Bianca. Because, weirdly, people have talked about Bianca. I don't think, again, enough people are talking about a Tiffany return, because it was reported sometime before the start of this season, which is why I went with Tiffany in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
The rumor was she would go into Mania to challenge her to set up a big match against Jade Cargill, rematch after the very much glorified squash that Jade won the title in. So I don't think enough people are talking about that, because people want to know there's not enough surprises in them. But I think both Bianca or Tiffany coming back to potentially not only returning at the Rumble and potentially winning it, that would be a major surprise, I think.
I mean, who had Jey Uso winning last year's Rumble on their betting cards? Because I think historically the women's tends to be more predictable in picking the winner. Men's is way more unpredictable. So just because Roman Reigns is apparently this particular bookie's favorite doesn't necessarily mean he wins. You never know. He could be eliminated just before the final 4. And, it comes down to, say, LA Knight and The Vision, for example. And then he eliminates all of them and he ends up winning.
I mean, I wouldn't say predictable in terms of the women's. I think there's a choice a lot of people want to win it. And more often than not, people are happy that they win it, unless it's Charlotte Flair last year. But like usually there's that obvious sort of like Becky in 2019, Asuka in 2018, to the extent Rhea, given how hot the Judgment Day were going into 2023, Bayley 2024, who I think was, some people weren't sure, but I think they were between her and Becky, but people were still happy to see her win. The most surprising one is actually a Charlotte Flair one, because I think when she last eliminated Shayna Baszler in 2020, I think a lot of people going into that were convinced it was going to be a Shayna win, given that she seemingly wrapped up in NXT. And maybe to an extent Bianca may have been surprised in 2021, given how very weird her initial call-up was that the previous year. The worst in terms of predictability may have been either Charlotte last year or Ronda Rousey in 2022. But, it's nice to have a proper, some surprise element for the first time in a good while. But that brings us to the end of our coverage of season 27 of the draft, as we head off to the Royal Rumble, the most exciting time of the year, even without the draft, but it's still going to be exciting. I mean, for me, my Rumble, Survivor the Rumble season one, when I won going into 2020 and 2024, when I had Cody winning, came down to him and Punk, and Jesus, that was a hard one to watch, but it's all going to be tight right down to the final elimination, and I can't wait. Thank you, David Hockney, for another phenomenal season of coverage. Ups, downs.
I see what you did there.
What?
Tribute to AJ Styles if this is going to be his last match with WWE.
Yes. Definitely intentional, because I'm a professional. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We look forward to you joining us in season 28, and our tag team season. Tag team season is also very exciting, because there's a lot more unpredictability in terms of, can people work together? How can they possibly coexist? The next time you'll see us and hear us will be our season 28 selection show with myself, Scott McCullers, David Hockney, and of course Stephen Wilson to operate all that, and some people popping in to give their selections. But until then, enjoy the Royal Rumble, regardless of where it's taking place. Please enjoy the Royal Rumble. Hopefully, who you want to win wins, and if not, commiserations. But until then, we'll see you for the next season. Same draft time, same draft channel.
Well, the holidays have come and gone once again, but if you've forgotten to get that special someone in your life a gift, well, Mint Mobile is extending their holiday offer of half off unlimited wireless. So here's the idea. You get it now, you call it an early present for next year. What do you have to lose? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Limited time, 50% off regular price for new customers. Upfront payment required. $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan. Taxes and fees extra. Speeds may slow after 50 gigabytes per month when network is busy. See terms.